right, I'm back using my streaming setup, and I do not have my hoodie on, because it's like 50 degrees in Europe. Watch me wear a hoodie in the thumbnail regardless. Also, there is no way the microphone doesn't fall into the frame throughout this video, and there is a fly in the room. The odds are stacked against me. But we are here because I really need to talk about something cool that is currently happening with Xin Zhao. You see, his voice lines dropped, but also his general story is already being teased. Despite the fact that PBE just dropped and there is still gonna be a little bit of time before we get into Season 3. You see, I might be one of the last lore people around League of Legends who realize that the timelines are totally shifted. For the most part, I thought that the story with Xin Zhao and what's happening in Ionia happens after most of the stories that we know about. Meaning it would be after the Noxian invasion and after the Mage Rebellion. But that simply can't be the case. Because we know that this story is happening after Arcane. It is after the Noxian invasion. Canon directly mentioned that. It is when Swain returned to Noxus, but it is before he established the Triforix. Meaning that the Noxian story has not fully developed. And we know that Swain needs to order Katarina to go into Demacia, which is gonna kickstart the entire Mage Rebellion. Because there is a crucial thing that happens with the King of Demacia. Meaning that this current story is happening before all of that, so King Jarvan III is still alive, and more importantly, Xin Zhao has a lot of stories there, which means it is pretty much guaranteed he is gonna survive unless a retcon happens. Because again, Riot has teased a lot that Xin Zhao is gonna be involved in picking up the Darkin weapon. And so there was a really good chance that he was gonna die. But now, throughout teasers, I think it is guaranteed that Xin Zhao is gonna live on. Not only is this somewhat teased in the voice lines, which we are gonna have a look at, but also there is a new thing that dropped onto PBE. You see, you know how in the last video we had a look at Xin Zhao's model and we saw how it's kinda like split in half, so it seems like Riot would be teasing potential corruption of one half of his body with Darkin? Well, then they also dropped the teaser where the new skin showed us that Xin Zhao has like a spirity hand and a spirit spear. And to me, it really looked like potentially Xin Zhao picks up the weapon, just like LeBlanc wanted, but Yunara is gonna help him cleanse the Darkin. Hence why the corruption goes away and his hand is now spirity. Well, consider this a bit of a spoiler, but there is something that dropped onto PBE which showed us what might happen with the Darkin. Because this is what Atakan looks like on PBE. And I wanna point out one thing, it is really cool that Riot is using the game to actually tease the lore. But yes, you can see that Atakan was fused with the Darkin. Which means that Xin Zhao is not getting corrupted, at least in the end. Because the chances are, he is still gonna pick up the Darkin, Yunara is gonna cleanse the Darkin is gonna go away from the weapon, and now LeBlanc is gonna have the Darkin as a vessel to use for war. Meaning that she's gonna take the Darkin and she's gonna shove it into Atakan. And this is kinda mind-blowing because this would make sense why she was so interested in Atakan and I forgot the name of Mordekaiser's warrior, because during the Demon's Hand minigame, she was just questioning how did the two fuse, how did it work, and how could she potentially recreate that? Well, now we know why she wants to fuse Atakan, which is already two vessels in one, even though she cleansed the human form during the Demon's Hand, and now she wants to take a demon and fuse it with a Darkin. What a nightmare. And so yes, big story developments are happening, and now I am even more excited to see the outcome of Season 3. Not even just what happens with Xin Zhao and what happens with Yunara. I wanna see what the heck LeBlanc wants to do with a demonic Darkin. But I guess that is something that we'll have a look at in the future, because now we still have to go through Xin Zhao's voice lines. And as I mentioned, the Xin Zhao we have in the game is a snapshot of the one from the story that is happening currently. Meaning that it is while King Jarvan III is still alive, he is still technically his personal guard, and it is before the Mage Rebellion happens. And I have to say, Xin Zhao's character is a lot different from what we're used to. And so, let's have a look at what I mean.
Brash, vain, unwashed. You must be Draven.
Of course, he would have a voice line against Draven, because they are both gladiators or reckoners in Noxus, or at least Xin Zhao was, so there is a chance the two might have met, but I don't think they ever fought. Regardless, yes, they both had the same past. Also, hail Skin Spotlights, because without him we would not be able to do this.
Your mask becomes you, deceiver.
See, he does have obviously voice lines against LeBlanc because the two are gonna be involved in the same story, but there is nothing too deep about this.
Reckoner to Reckoner, you know what comes next.
Of course, Alistar was also a Reckoner. He was supposed to get a skin, and that did not happen. Yeah.
Your name is your oath, Crown Guard, and both are in question.
Now, this is where things start getting interesting, because I don't know exactly why, but Xin Zhao does not like Garen and Jarvan. Now, this was never the case in his story, which is why I got super confused by these voice lines. And the only way I can explain this is his first encounter in the game against Garen or Jarvan, which means they are supposed to be his enemies in the game. So in combat, it makes sense if you're fighting them. But if I was writing these voice lines, I would be more honorable about this. I would turn this into a practice or a duel, because that's what Xin Zhao did with Jarvan. He literally trained him with a lot of weapons. So it's kind of weird to see Xin Zhao actually being mad at his fellow Demacians. With that said, there are other voice lines later on that may also potentially tease what's gonna be happening in Xin Zhao's head. Because if you remember all the darkened skins, there is the chance that they were Xin Zhao's vision, meaning that LeBlanc implanted them into Xin Zhao's head. And that could potentially be why he's questioning Garen and Jarvan specifically.
You shame your father's crown.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Xin Zhao has never been against Prince Jarvan. In fact, again, we got multiple stories where he's training him and he's trying to turn him into the next king. But he was never actually against him, and again, it could be explained by the fact that this is the first encounter, meaning that this is in the game where the two fight each other.
Return the crown, Butcher, or I will carve it from your face.
And yes, this is, and I always get it mixed up, I'm pretty sure it's Jarvan II, not Jarvan I, I could be wrong, but Sion killed one of the Jarvans, and he took his crown, and they used it for his jaw. That's literally what it is. Sion's jaw is actually the crown of the Demacian king.
It saddens me to see you so far from home, with discord in your heart.
Of course, Sona is an Ionian who was adopted by Lord Bevel. There is a really cool story about that. It is also a really big story. But yes, Sona is an Ionian.
Your temple lies in ruins, Yunara. Do not follow its fate.
And yes, another potential lore teaser for what's gonna happen. Yunara's temple is gonna be destroyed. Now, the patron technically should be inside the temple, meaning that yes, the patron might be actually turned into a Darkin, even though he doesn't have the bloody body, because he probably didn't accept the blood magic from Zolani. So what's gonna be happening there? I'm really curious.
The storm within you clouds your judgment, Master Kennen.
Again, he's kinda not mad, but he's against Kennen because this is first encounter. They are probably fighting each other on the Summoner's Rift.
Another beast that thinks itself immortal.
The same goes for the Darkin. He's fighting them, and again, he's gonna have a lot of stories, or at least one good story with the Darkin.
You have strayed from the righteous path.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting that he calls the Demacian path the righteous path, but I guess it makes sense because he was taught the Demacian way in the end.
My spirit may be rooted in Ionia, but my duty is to Demacia.
Now, this is an interesting voice line for one specific reason. Technically, the snapshot is happening... Well, no, it's happening after the story with Yunara, because Yunara's temple is in ruins. So even after everything that's gonna happen in this story, Xin Zhao is gonna stay loyal to Demacia, which makes sense. I mean, he will still have his little Mage Seeker stuff happening there.
You remind me of all those reckoners no one remembers.
They don't remember them because they are likely dead.
I once bled for Noxus. Today, you will bleed for me.
And again, just remember that he was technically kidnapped by Noxians when he was young, which is how he ended up in the Reckoning arenas.
It is true then. The boy I knew is dead.
And this is exactly what I was talking about before. He has a direct voice line against the skin, meaning that he is the one who sees these visions, and it should be LeBlanc who's giving him these visions. And I wonder if she's gonna tempt him into picking up the Darkin weapon, and that's why she's implanting those. Like, maybe he should be using the weapon against themselves, because that's what Yunara did. Yunara used the Darkin to defeat other Darkin. That's a cool theory that I just made up.
Your hunger dies here, foul thing.
And yeah, so it makes sense that he would have special voice lines against Atakan, not only because he is gonna have a story against him, but also because he is a jungler. He's gonna be engaging on him a lot.
I have silenced louder creatures in darker pits.
He is probably talking about the Reckoning Pits, and I do not believe there is anything darker than Baron.
Fate made you. I will unmake you.
Fate made the Herald? Is this the first lore on Herald that we ever got?
Demacia has always stood against flame and scale.
That is true. There is a lot of dragons that are in the southern mountains around Demacia, and of course that's where we got the entire story with Shyvana. And there is the Dragon Guard, which later becomes allied with Shyvana. But yeah, it takes all the way to the end of Mageseeker for Demacia to actually be fine with dragons. Up until that point, they are hunting them.
You are no god. Only a disappointment.
And yes, the Darkin, during the Darkin War, were considered gods by many. That's why they were worshipped.
I had hoped never to spill Demacian blood again.
Again? Oh, they are talking about the fact that, okay, more story for Xin Zhao. When he was kidnapped by Noxians, after he was a Reckoner in the Reckoning Arenas, eventually he was scooped up and he was put onto the battlefield to fight the Demacians, together with a lot of other Reckoners. So he was sent to die to Demacia, so he killed a lot of Demacians there actually, and eventually Jarvan took him under his wings. Because Demacians are very trusty.
Fate brought us here, demon. The spear did the rest.
The spear? Now, I don't know how much of a teaser this is, considering what's gonna be happening to Atakan on PvE. But just keep this in mind, in case it becomes more relevant.
Hear that? Noxus cheers your fall.
Look, people adore Draven, from what we've heard.
What am I to tell your father, lad? Or our people?
And again, this is very specifically a voice line for Xin Zhao killing Jarvan in the game, and this has two sides. First of all, it's not anything super canon. Again, this is just for Summoner's Rift. And secondly, look, he's confirming that King Jarvan III is alive, meaning that as of the snapshot of Xin Zhao that we got in the game, the Mage Seekers have not happened yet. So it's pretty much guaranteed that Xin Zhao is gonna survive. What a tragedy.
One of us lost our way. I hope it was not me.
And again, more quips that are all about just talking to characters on Summoner's Rift specifically, which is a little bit of a shame. I would like more lore hints for his current story.
I was sure you would outlive us all, Master Cannon.
Now, assuming Xin Zhao kills him, I don't think Geralt is gonna necessarily die unless his soul gets absorbed or something, because, you know, Yordles should be immortal, so let's just assume Xin Zhao doesn't know that.
The insult to the throne has been answered in kind.
I like that he has more voice lines against Sion, because that's not something I expected. Hey, maybe LeBlanc is actually gonna bring in Sion later in the season, and that would be really cool.
Better the myth than what you became.
Again, this is such a shame this is not like teasing the story, I think, unless something really bad happens to Yunara, because it feels kind of out of character for him to be like, I hate you, and you're bad, and you're bad, and Yunara is one of those, even though in the recent story, they bonded heavily.
Demacia did not merely lose a sword, it lost its heart.
I mean, yeah, Garen is the leader, or, well, yeah, he is basically the leader of the Dauntless Vanguard, so should Garen die, again, this is a made-up scenario, the Dauntless Vanguard would be in trouble.
Another death Noxus will not mourn.
That is true. If you die, you're kind of not worthy for Noxus, but they do appreciate your service. That's what Noxus is about.
Cleared in the crown's name. Nothing left standing.
I like how he has these quips against the jungle camps. Do junglers have those?
You are no Colossus.
Because these are cool.
My prince, heed your training. The lance may falter, but you must not.
Okay, so this is This is the Xin Zhao that I know from the story. It is so weird how him fighting the characters he knows on Summoner's Rift is not really in his character, but then when he has them as his allies, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for.
Your lessons keep me grounded, Master Cannon.
Again, this is exactly what is currently happening with his story. Thank God he has these voice lines. I thought we would get destroyed.
Lady Sona, if I fall today, let your song carry me home.
That's cool, especially considering that this is happening while most people still don't know that she is a mage, because eventually she runs away from Demacia before the rebellion, because people will realize, oh, she's a mage. It's not that she's just a good singer. So it's cool to see that Xin Zhao can see through that.
To protect something greater than yourself. That is why I serve Demacia.
That's probably a better motto than what Noxus has, which is kill them until they are family.
I am the King's Spear, driven into the heart of the unjust.
He is the Seneschal, that is his official title.
Seneschal is a title, a duty, the King's sworn protector and most trusted advisor.
Speak of the devil, I don't even have to explain that one.
I would rather die fighting for the shieldless than live out my days in regret.
It's cool that they call the shieldless the ones who can't defend themselves. He said it multiple times at this point, so it's probably like a Demacian word that they use for it.
I once thrilled the crowds. Now I serve the King of Demacia.
This is a reference to the pits where he fought and the king which he now defends.
Demacia is a fighter full of promise, gifted and disciplined, but still untested.
Untested! Oh, this is cool because the Mage Seekers are yet to come. There is gonna be a great test.
May I serve as the Seneschal of Demacia until my final breath.
I hate to be the one who says that, but technically, at the end of his story, he did promise that he would kill himself.
Of the many masters I have served, there is only one I would call friend.
And is it Jarvan? Is it actually Jarvan? Because they did train together, they had a lot of stories together. Is it Jarvan?
Demacia's walls are strongest when our gates remain open.
That is true. Look, Demacia and Noxus are about the same thing. They both just accept people. Noxus may kidnap them and then accept them, and Demacia is all about, hey, are you running from war? Just join us. We'll hang out together.
King's gift is never free. This spear came with purpose and cause.
That spear also later breaks. And he's gonna get a new one.
Why would fate choose a boy from a fishing boat to serve a king? We may never know.
Oh, unless it was all LeBlanc. We may never know unless we get another short story.
First to avoid punishment, then because I was good at it.
That is true. He simply became so good as a reckoner, they offered pay, which they normally don't do to the slaves.
I may be outnumbered, but not even the odds can stand against me.
Hey, that is a cool little Easter egg for his old voice lines, which are gone now.
I trained a prince. You fight like a squire.
Again, at least he's referencing his stories with Jarvan, because this is specifically from the story called Aftermath.
Another falls. The crowd cheers.
It's kind of cool how he does have voice lines as a Demacian and being honorable, but also he's kind of joking about being in the Reckoner pits. Unless these voice lines are specifically for the arena game mode.
The great Viscero. Get back out there.
Also, in case you forgot, Viscero was his Reckoner's name.
Demacia is not perfect, but it tries.
Okay, Xin Zhao, who came from Ionia.
A warrior learns to read the sound of footsteps.
Alright, hold on, I have to talk about this one. Have you ever noticed how League of Legends does not have footstep sounds? Yeah, I ruined the game for you, enjoy.
Your life is forfeit.
Okay, there's a lot of these that are still Easter eggs towards his old voice lines.
Hardly a threat. This ends in silence. Here is a tip, and a spear behind it.
And of course, that's a legendary one.
Jarvan, lead them. My king, forgive this failure.
At least, see, again, at least, even when he dies, he's loyal to the king, so Xin Zhao is saved, he actually does not hate his fellow Demacians. And that is it, I guess. So yes, I have to say, these voice lines are cool, because they do kinda serve, they do Xin Zhao justice. But I have to say, every time he does have a voice line against his comrades, those are the ones where I'm like, he would probably act differently under the right circumstances. But then again, the Summoner's Rift is totally made up, so like, who really knows what would happen if he suddenly out of nowhere faced a Garen that was evil? But I would be still happier if the voice lines turned it into a made up scenario of just two comrades training or doing something like that. Because that would be the real Xin Zhao way, because he's been training a lot of people. But now, if you take all of these voice lines and you take what we saw on Twitter, which is, you know, a glorious new version of Atakan, I have to say, where the story is going looks really interesting. It is a shame that now it is all but confirmed that Xin Zhao is gonna live. I don't think there is a way that he can die now. But the way they are gonna handle the next Darkin is cool. As to how that's gonna be revealed, well, we still don't know. I'm gonna assume there's gonna be a cinematic. It would be cool if there was some kind of a game mode, but Riot has not said anything specifically. And I wonder if that's because it's gonna be a surprise. Then again, the Doom bots are rolling out, so I think the casual players are gonna have their own fun. But that all still raises one question that I wanna get answered. If the Darkin weapon is still gonna be the Darkin glaive, then seeing that character meet this Atakan is gonna be very awkward.